So good morning, everyone. It's Tara,
It's Jen.
and and we have a great program today on the Girlfriends Talk Marketing. We have a great guest. She is the inventor of inbound PR. She is also the global partner manager for the partner program at HubSpot right now. And we are super psyched that lliyana Stareva has joined us this morning and taken her time out to talk with us today, specifically about inbound PR, and talk with us about our book and kind of everything that goes along with it. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tara and Jen. Really excited to be here.
Welcome. So if you could, I'd love to hear a little bit more about this concept of inbound for PR. Can you just talk a little bit about what it is and how it's different than what we typically think of for marketing PR?
Sure.
Inbound?
Yeah. Sure. So the whole notion with inbound PR is that it takes what PR does really well, which is content and storytelling, and alleviates PR's biggest challenge, which is measurement, through the whole thinking that inbound has. We know that inbound marketing always starts with the numbers in mind, so we are thinking outcomes rather than outputs. And traditionally, PR has been very output driven. So we'll write 5 press releases and send them to 500 journalists, which is not the right way to think about PR. So inbound PR in this essence is a mindset change of how you approach and do the work that you deliver either for your own company or for the clients that you have as a PR agency. So you really think about what type of revenue do we want to generate, how PR is going to impact that, and only then do you start thinking about the outputs and the tactics you're going to use.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's so cool. So inbound PR, the book, how did you have a vision for this? I mean, you're the inventor of inbound PR, so can you kind of explain to us like how you got the idea to write the book, and then obviously writing a book is such a super accomplishment, you know, kind of what that process was, and also how the reaction has been so far to it.
Sure, absolutely. So the whole story begins from me before joining HubSpot, which was about 3.5 years ago. I spent 3 years working in PR agencies across Germany and the UK, mastering very traditional PR in terms of media relations and generally pitching, also working with a lot of influencers. At that time, blogger relations were picking up, working with YouTubers. So that's my background. And when I joined HubSpot, my first role there was channel consultant. So my job was to work with a lot of our agency partners from across Europe to onboard them, teach them everything inbound marketing, help them grow their businesses with inbound-driven services retainers. So I was on the other side where instead of working in an agency, I was consulting agencies how to run their businesses and use inbound for that. And at that time, I noticed this link between PR and inbound marketing. I saw how a lot of the PR agencies that I was working with were really good with content and generally storytelling and content creation. On the other hand, the typical web and digital agencies would always struggle with that whole content creation piece. But then they're really good at the numbers game and the measurement piece, which PR people were really lacking with. And so I have a blog. I've been running it for about 6.5 years. I started blogging about inbound PR. People started commenting, sharing, responding that it was interesting. I started being invited to do public speaking. I spoke at Inbound 16 about inbound PR as well, which was a great experience there, absolutely. And one of the first questions that I got was, well, where do we take this to the next level? Is there a book or a HubSpot Academy certification? And I said, well, no, unfortunately, there wasn't. And I remember one of my PR mentors, his name's Stephen Waddington. He's Chief Engagement Officer of Ketchum, one of the largest PR agencies in the world. He was in Dublin speaking at an event, invited me to go out for dinner. We knew each other from Twitter and so on. And we started talking about inbound PR. And he was the person who really encouraged me to write the book. So I decided, okay, I'm going to now write the book. And that was pretty much after the Inbound 16 talk, or shortly before that. And then I essentially, it took me a little while to get into it. I don't think I was in the headspace initially. I developed like a table of contents. That was the starting piece for me. I knew I had a lot of content from the blog anyway, so that was helpful. And I just sort of had to structure it and like expand on it. And I remember last year in the beginning of 2017, because I hadn't made much progress apart from that whole table of contents the year previous, I said to myself, it's now or never. And so the way that I made it work was to decide and very much stick to a new routine that I created. I was telling Tara earlier that I'm a morning person. So I wake up at 5:45 every morning. Between 6 to 7, I typically do a little bit of work, email, and just get shit done, as I like to say. So instead of doing work, I decided that for the next couple of months, between 6 and 7 every weekday, I'm just going to write. I have the table of contents, and I will aim for a chapter to finish for a day or two, depending on the length. And I pretty much stuck with that. And this is really what made it work. In 2 months, I had finished 40,000 words of manuscript. And
Wow.
this is the very much the untraditional approach to writing a book. You already have, typically you would create a proposal and pitch a publishing house, and then you start working. I took the opposite approach. I finished the book and pitched Wiley in an email, said that it touches my manuscript. I want to work with you guys because idols that I have, Brian Solis, David Mormon Scott, have worked with you. So I really want to work with you as well. So that's how it all started last year in March, basically,
So
January,
cool.
March.
That is a great, that's
so
a great method
cool.
to get things done. So
Yeah.
Talk a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, about the similarities of inbound or PR versus marketing, particularly on the buyer persona aspect.
Sure.
How do you approach it with that?
Sure. So for everyone who understands inbound marketing, there's a very key term there, which is buyer personas. We define the ideal client profile and essentially their buyer's journey or the decision-making processes. How do they come about finding us? So we pull people in rather than push messages out there, very much the inbound versus outbound approach. What's unique about PR, though, is that PR can deal with many different stakeholders, whereas inbound marketing targets the buyer or the client. PR could still target the buyer persona, but also have a media persona where we know we're working with the influencers and the journalists and so on. They could also be targeting investors. They could also be targeting employees. So we're really talking about internal engagement here and internal communication. So really that's the key difference between PR and marketing as I see it, in terms of who is it, the persona or the stakeholder that you're dealing with. And that expands the breadth of services that PR agencies and PR firms in general can offer, because they could be touching on so many different personas.
Oh, sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's so, well, it's just so timely and so true. I mean, we really are at like a crossroads in the terms of the way that buyers want to buy, and that really has to transcend across all verticals, PR, media, you know, the way advertise, the way that people are marketed to. And so this is a great natural extension that they can inboundify everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it really about connecting with an audience? Oh, I'm sorry, I talked over you. Connecting with an audience.
Correct, absolutely. And engaging with them the way they want to be engaged with, instead of doing it the way you think it should be done. It really is what's in it for me here. And for us in particular in Europe now, the GDPR is coming into place on May 25th, and you can't continue blasting emails out of there. People are, this could essentially be illegal. So outbound in this essence is full on GDPR compliant, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yes, I was just going to say 4 days from now, it's like official, it's official D-Day GDPR launch. Yes, no, I know. I've been working on a lot of my clients' portals that deal with EU country contacts a lot, and making sure that, you know, essentially, as you said, really we look at now outbound efforts completely, totally different, because it's just not GDPR compliant. And so literally the way to make sure that you're getting the best engagement and really leading those folks along, like the always be helping and guiding them down their buyer's journey, is really 100%. You've got to adopt to inbound and creating content that's going to help them figure that out. So you work with PR. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, let me just jump in here for those who are uninitiated. Tell us what the GDPR compliant means, lliyana.
So GDPR is the new law that the European Commission announced last year is going to come into effect on 25th of May 2018. It stands for General Data Protection Regulation, and essentially gives consumers and any individual really full ownership over their own data. That is relevant to European citizens. However, just as Tara said, any business, global business, wherever they're based, as soon as they have anyone dealing with in the European Union, and that could be someone literally just reading your website and downloading stuff, you have to be GDPR compliant. And the GDPR regulation handles the way you collect, process, and use personal data to communicate with European citizens.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Cool. And so, yeah, I was just saying, so you work with PR agencies all over the globe. What is the number one thing that you see in terms of agencies adapting to inbound PR? And like, what is, I guess, your number one recommendation to make it a seamless transition? Because this is the way that everybody needs to go. So it's kind of like, you know, get on the train now versus a few years from now. So
sure.
What are you seeing from kind of like the front lines of PR agencies themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for them, it's very easy to adopt the whole content game. So in terms of identifying those personas, doing the research, and then really creating relevant content. And again, that goes back to like what they're really experts at. So they've no problem creating certain campaigns and ebooks and reports and so on and so forth. I also advise in the book that PR agencies should be creating newsrooms. That's also a very easy thing to actually adopt and create. And it's pretty useful because, as we know, on a lot of websites, if you're dealing with the buyer, you would usually have like a section called downloads, and there you can find everything that might be relevant to you, ebooks and so on. It's the exact same thing. The newsroom is the go-to place for all those media and influencer people, essentially. So this is something that they can very easily adopt and see a lot of value in. However, where the challenge then lies into becoming a strategic advisor to your client, and then saying, you know, all of these activities and everything that we do with all that content that we're creating, this is how it relates back to your bottom line. So that's the biggest hurdle, especially for PR, given that typically PR people, they don't necessarily work on their business acumen. They don't study finance. They've never run their own business. Like, that's hard for them to grasp and understand because they deal with words day in and day out.
Yeah, and they're not typically
and that makes
about bottom line.
Correct. They don't have that talk track.
Right. So, lliyana, tell us what you're working on now.
Right now, I am working on a lot of things internally for a partner program. So as I said, I own internal communication within the partner program at HubSpot. So we move very quickly at HubSpot, and we've like a lot of things going on, a lot of changes all the time. I think you've seen the new products we've just recently introduced. So there's a lot of learning that needs to happen internally as well. And with so much sources and information, like communication is scattered all over the place. So my job right now is to make sure that we have a streamlined process for communicating with our stakeholders internally, specifically with the people in the front lines, so they understand what our mission is, where we're going, why are we going there, and really what the role is within the organization.
All right, fantastic. So the book is Inbound PR?
Correct, Inbound PR.
Okay, and
yeah.
we will find that on Amazon. Is there any, how else can they get a hold of you or connect with you if they want to follow up and find out more?
Sure, the book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. Literally today, well, it was published as an audiobook as well, so people can download it and listen to it on Audible. Thank you. It's on Kindle too, so really all possible formats. It's out there, and I'm everywhere online. I'm like on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. For myself personally, Instagram and Twitter for the book itself as well, Inbound PR. So people can use the the hashtag Inbound PR as well. I follow those too, and I make sure if anyone tweets like photos of the book or quotes and so on, I'm aware and I'll retweet. So, and of course my blog.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been great.
Thank you so much for having me. Really my pleasure. Looking forward to connecting with a lot of your listeners.
Excellent. Jen, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time.